Hey there, welcome back to another week of Leading from the Middle, an opportunity I am taking this year to talk to 23 different leaders to learn a little bit more about what they believe companies can do to transform their middle managers into their most valuable asset. And I do this by asking one question. But before I dive in, by the way, let me introduce myself. I'm Helen Young-McLaughlin. And today I am excited to introduce you to Dana Lawson. She is the Executive Vice President at Singer EVI. And I am going to just say, welcome, Dana. And we're going to learn a little bit more about her. Hey there.
Good morning, and thrilled to be joining you today. Thanks for the invite.
Sure. Thanks, Dana. Hey, can you share with our listeners a little bit more about you and kind of the roles that you've served that really apply to what we're talking about today?
Sure. Happy to do a little dive into my journey. So I am currently serving, as you mentioned, as Executive Vice President of Singer EVI. We are a company that specializes in restaurant design and providing services and commercial restaurant equipment. And we do this locally and we do this nationally. Lots of different customer niches for us to be in. I have been in this role over the last 4.5 years. Prior to that, kind of got a kickstart. My husband and I did our own entrepreneurial thing and set up our own business, which was called EVI. That's the EVI of Singer EVI. And again, doing similar things. The design kind of came a little later, but the kitchen equipment, planning and installation, working with restaurants has been around since 1995 as far as our own small business. And then fast forward to 2019, we were courted by the Singer Equipment Company out of Pennsylvania, one of the largest in the country, currently number 4 in the country for these types of products. And we went through an acquisition. So we went from a small business to a much bigger corporate, larger business. It's had a pretty big impact on our life. EVI currently has over 60 employees.
Wow.
We are charged with running our division, but Singer's got over 800. So you can already maybe imagine a little bit of the blending that goes on from a small business to a bigger business, some of our challenges and opportunities and wins on that. Prior to the work, I was at Penn State. I'm a College of Liberal Arts grad, had an emphasis in public relations back then, and came out of school thinking I would end up in the public relations, but actually ended up working in a hotel in the food and beverage operations and ended up really embracing that.
You've worn a lot of different hats in the business in general, right, Dana?
I have. I've worn a lot of hats. Obviously, back in the day when it first started, it was my husband and I doing everything, and then took a couple years to get a few employees on, and then we found ourselves all wearing the same hat sometimes, and then there was that recognition of we can't all make the same phone call. So at that point we started with some different roles and expectations of who was going to do what, and it grew, and we obviously had to bring in people to help us grow and kind of grow up as well.
Well, that leads us right into the question that I ask everyone, which is, what is one thing companies must pay closer attention to when it comes to developing their managers? And Dana and I have been working together on this for a couple of years now, a little over a couple of years. But I have no idea what her answer is going to be. So I'd love to hear from you, and I know our listeners would too. It's hard to pare it down to one thing, but what is that for you?
I'm going to vote culture.
Okay.
It's always been important to us as a smaller company. It's become even more important as we've kind of, as I mentioned, blended in with a much bigger company. And part of us being acquired was because we had a special niche of type of business we were doing, and it made us unique and special, as my husband would say, that whatever that special sauce is as to why we were getting to work with some of the customers that were embracing us and supporting us back. So while we were becoming something bigger, it's been very important to figure out how to all work together, how to become one enterprise, but still it's okay to be unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to vote culture for that answer because
Okay.
that's probably where I spend most of my time now. I actually don't get to, the majority of my day is probably more around employees and
Mm-hmm.
liaising with our corporate office and
Yep.
working to figure out what is our best way forward. Because I do believe if everybody, I will say, feels taken care of, happy in their role, satisfied with doing the work, feeling like
Mm-hmm.
the company is offering them something attractive to want to be here and thrive, then I believe the customer service experiences will certainly go better and then ultimately lead to hopefully better outcomes, profits, everything you need to do to keep the
Absolutely.
business running. So, but you got to start with the people. A lot
What
of it
are
is
some of the ways that people listening in can start to pay closer attention to the culture and ensuring that people do feel valued as individuals and as teams and as the larger, so I sort of start small and then kind of branch out to the bigger organization. What are, do you have a way or two that you can share?
Well, I think one of the first things is just to truly communicate. I mean, actually, I'm going to back up. I think you actually need to be aware you need to be working on this.
Yeah.
Truly, like a
Yeah.
teacher has their planning book for the week of what they're going,
Uh-huh.
much like any business plans a budget for next year and sorts out their things. I think you have to culture plan. You have to be very proactive. And we came from, again, the smaller side of it where I didn't have an HR department. But when I became part of something bigger, we got an HR department, we got a finance department. So things really did change. All my hats certainly started shuffling around a little
Right.
bit, but I still have my always that water, so to speak. I am constantly trying to understand how are people doing.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you do that? You've got to be able to communicate. You have to set time to communicate. And it's not just reaching out, it's trying to figure out how do they want to be communicated with? How are you going to get this feedback if you're just kind of maybe always, some people are survey people, and I would love there to be more surveys. I think those can be very helpful,
Right.
but I think number one is to reach out, make a game plan to actually communicate and figure out how do people want to be communicated with, because there needs to be some kind of that loop on feedback. You've got to be open to hearing it. You got to be open to follow up on it. You might need to explain things a little better to your people as to why things are or why they are challenging or why you need their support. But if you don't get that employee feedback and I'll just say some buy-in, and
Right.
if they feel like they're part of problem solving, it's going to make it really hard for them to feel valued and part of the process.
And Dana, you all at EVI have really invested in your managers, right? That those managers can be sort of left to figure it out as you go. And I love the start of this, the culture plan. You knew that they craved development, they needed development because of the growth and the changes and transitions that you all had. And I'm very excited to say that Dana, you know, really move the needle forward in terms of offering that development to their managers and actually to emerging managers. And I do have a program called the Leverage Academy where we bring together a cohort of managers for a 6-month journey where they're learning to collaborate and build the skills. And this really is something that was important and of value to you. What do you believe the people that have gone through the cohort have kind of taken away from that? Because I feel like that is part of a culture plan, is
Absolutely.
understanding the development needs of your managers.
Right. And I think a lot of businesses are faced with this, whether they have the, say, time and resources to throw at it. I would say, looking back, I mean, we didn't know this. This was not staring at us in the face 20 years ago, even 5 years ago, when it was radars going up, going, wow, we're getting bigger and busier.
Yeah.
And, you know, we realized a lot of our managers became managers because they had done such a great job with a customer that the customer grew. They got busy. So then we hired them an assistant project manager or a project coordinator, assorted different roles in different departments to grow the business. But that didn't mean that these employees, now managers, knew how to do it. They knew how to take care of the customer. They understood the product they were selling. They were successful and they got rewarded by getting direct reports. And
Yes.
so then we were faced with managers kind of trying to figure out not only how to worry about themselves and their own development and their own past, but how to reflect and affect their own people, their own direct report, team members. And so
the number way we do that is through communication.
Absolutely.
So it goes back to your next point, which was being able to set time aside and communicate. And one of the things I say all the time is communication is a skill we need to exercise every single day.
Absolutely.
It is something we use every single day. But if we're not intentional about it, then guess what can happen? There can be misunderstandings. There can be some conflict. We might even sidestep a conversation or two. And especially when you're in such a fast-paced environment like yours, it's really important. And I'm applauding you all. It's not easy, even when you have the tools and skills. Mm-hmm. And when you have the tools and skills that you can rely on, it does allow people to feel supported, to feel valued, and they get that part that people crave. And there's some LinkedIn study, I believe, that said, 97% of employees would stay if their company, invested in their development. So I love this component of, I'm almost seeing it as culture plan is in the center. And then part of that is, work on the communication, setting boundaries or setting time aside to ensure you're taking a temperature check of what's happening. And then to infuse those communication skills throughout the culture. So people are feeling connected, unique, and valued. Did I get that right? Because I get visuals, and that was
absolutely. And when we got intentional on that, it shouldn't be surprising, but sometimes it still feels surprising that we sometimes forget our employees have their own lives. And I think a pandemic has proved that it's all kind of converging all at the same time, same place.
True.
People, rooms in their homes,
yes.
I think if you're checking in and you understand how somebody is really doing, and granted, some people might not be doing okay. And there may not be something that you as the manager or leader can do to fix that, but having some empathy to understand what those struggles are. I mean, listen, there's only so much money you can pay somebody if you're where someone's having financial problems, or whatever. But having some understanding of where your employee's coming from. And I would say one of the biggest things that came up during, I would say, these light bulb moments and this intentionality to have Leverage Academy and target very specific managers to participate is trying to figure out that balance. And it's not 50% personal life, 50% work, but just really what is the right focus and where should energy be put, and to understand they've got a lot going on. They might literally have a dog at their feet. They might have kids in and out the door. They've got meetings, they're on screen. And then there's life happening, whatever we don't know. And so we need to give a little permission to have some self-care about how to get through that. And I would say that's been a really big light bulb for just about all managers. I get that feedback a lot. They feel guilty they didn't drive into the office anymore. They feel guilty to leave their desk and go eat or stretch their legs or bio break, whatever it is. It's just always shocking when they're like, wow, I am just trying to prove myself all the time. And we can't be on all the time.
That's a great question companies can ask themselves. A simple thing is you could ask a number of people in your organization, how often are you taking a break, a lunch break? Like literally walking away from your laptop, your phone, you know, that you might be looking at your emails and just doing something for yourself. That might be an indicator just right there of your culture plan, right?
I also think, every company's kind of got a different culture and you've got different leaders. You might have leaders in the same organization that view things differently. I think it's important to get buy-in from your leaders, your managers, your employees, top to bottom, literally. If culture is a team effort. It's not going to be a memo from HR saying this is how we do it, or some president saying these are our values and this is what you will do. I mean, just because you say it and print it and put it on a website or, bring it up every chance you can doesn't mean that that is how everybody is acting or performing.
Well, I love that. Culture is a team effort. And I think if we, as we kind of pull things together for today, if we looked at the bottom line, the number one thing it sounds like you would start with is that culture plan. This is for companies out there thinking about how can you set aside the time to consider what is our culture plan and how does development fall in that, and specifically for our managers who tend to, like you said, managers often get stuck in the tricky spot of they were fantastic individual contributors. Now they're crossing over into a whole different skill set of leading and managing, and they need support in the center. They need support throughout that so that they can build those skills. Is there anything you wanted to add as we kind of close up for today?
You got to listen to really understand. If it could be the difference of why they want to stay. If they feel acknowledged and seen and heard, then, hopefully again, it's what makes the whole business cycle go round.
Thank you so much. This has been great. I really appreciate your insight. I appreciate so much about the work that we've done together and how you've supported the managers inside your division. And Dana, if people want to reach out to you, can they connect with you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. And if you need any restaurant equipment services, singerequipment.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to another interview of Leading from the Middle. I'm really looking forward to hearing some feedback from you. I want to connect with you. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Helen Young-McLaughlin. Just hit that hyphen in between Young and McLaughlin, or you can go to my website at helenyoungcoaching.com. Thanks again and have a great day.